Well, I'm with Della Rocca and Barrie Wall, who are both appearing in the upcoming thriller Iniquitous. So, Anna and Barrie, I'd like to start with a little bit about you both to begin with. Anna first. How old are you?
45.
And Barrie?
54.
And where did you grow up?
I was born in Portugal and I grew up in a lot of different places. I came to Australia when I was 5 and I lived in various north inner city places and then moved out to the peninsula for my teenage years and then lived out by the beachside for quite a number of years and am now back northeast of Melbourne. So yeah, I'm pretty settled there now.
And I grew up in a small town in New Zealand. Stayed there until I was about 20. And then I just basically travelled all over the world for a long time. Came to Melbourne about 17 years ago. So,
Where did you do your training?
So I came back to acting in 2008 and I've been lucky enough to train in some amazing places in Melbourne where we're very lucky to have these places. So 16th Street, Howard Fine more recently, which are, top class schools that, have international teachers that come. And yeah, it was pretty much for me like the start of me realising, how the respect that is needed for the craft and yeah, like the depth of it. And it's just, they've been quite inspirational. And in recent times, I've been lucky enough to also work with Kim Farrant in her master classes, which has just really cemented a lot of the tools and given me more tools and just really kind of opened up a lot of the blocks that I had. But yeah, places like Taffeta, Brave Studios, the film space, the rehearsal room, I just feel like I've really been blessed to and to be able to take what works for me and also because I love theatre as well, and kind of the tools that are, needed for both, camera work as well as theatre and kind of, just continuing that journey, and, topping up every year, I think is really important as well. So,
my training was National Theatre Drama School and then 16th Street, Q44. We both did Q44 as well.
Sorry.
A little bits and pieces at Taffeta, and I'm just about to do a course at Howard Fine. Starting soon. So.
How did you get your start in the acting industry?
So I started off in my late teens and early 20s in a modelling agency, and they did some extra work as well. And any movie that was being shot in the late 80s, early 90s, Half a World Away, Errol Flynn, like just, Mission Impossible, I was lucky enough to get in there, and then I had a couple of big parts where I had some lines as well, and that was really, began my passion or the seed for it, but I was at uni studying psychology and ended up going more that way. Even like having done some extra work on Neighbours and everything like that, that was always there. And then, later on, after I had been doing psychology for quite a while, I came back and my first short film was called Of Land and Bounty with Robert Grubb, who was in The Flying Doctors and Mamma Mia, and is quite an experienced Australian actor, and it was just awesome to have my first speaking part, supporting role opposite him, because I learnt a lot from him, and the rest of the cast on that film, and it just sort of took off from there. I went back to studying seriously and just kept getting different roles in short films and feature films, and then later in theatre, and just kept going from there.
My start, I had nothing to do with acting for the first 50 years of my life, and then I saw a show on Broadway, and I sort of got inspired, and I thought, okay, I'm going to become an actor. And so I trained for a year at National Theatre Drama School, then got a role in a play, and then I think that year I also did a short film, and since then I've done 30 odd projects, a couple of plays, Yeah, so that's me.
Now let's talk about your characters, Christine and Colbert. Tell me a little bit about them. Who are they?
So Christine, for me, is a mum. She lost her husband, so she's a widower, and she's just, probably to me just your typical caring mum who's, worries about her son, in this case Jared, and just wants the best for him and wants him to have a good life like most mums want, and to be happy and settled, and possibly grandkids around one day, and
My character has got a bit going on. Colbert. He's a detective, and his life takes a bit of has a bit of a twist, quite a few twists, and I won't really say too much about what I do, but he's got some depth, my character, and some interesting things happen to him.
Tell me a little bit about their backgrounds, their backstories, how they grew up.
I think that's something that I'm still developing within the character, and I like to do a lot of that when I start reading the script and look at the character and look at who am I. One of the things that I like to do is to try and find that character in me, and because it's what I've learnt is best to do in terms of instead of trying to reinvent something that is so different, especially when it's a character that is close to who I am as a person per se. So in terms of, unless it very specifically indicated in the script that she had to come from a huge family, or was overseas or was a foreigner, that's different. But when it's a character that you can pretty much play with and have a backstory that you can present the character as she is, then for me, Christine, I've made her very similar to me, other than the fact that she's obviously lost her husband. So, and I have 2 children. She's just got the one son. So, but to me, it's more about like the relationship between her and her son, and her desires for him, and her friends that she has, her hobbies in the city that she lives in, and who she is as a person and as a mother. I think in this case, other than, as I said, she lost her husband. I've sort of made her very, as close to me as possible in how I can make her.
Like Anna said, you should, as an actor, you should try and find yourself in the character as much as you possibly can. This guy is a little bit different to me in a few ways, but I get him. I get him, and I his I sort of have a fair idea of what he would have gone through as a child, for example, where he ended up being, and what made him go that way. So I try to find, like Anna said, I try to find as much as myself in the character as I possibly can, and the rest of it is you just fill in the blanks, So
A lot of the characters in Iniquitous are searching for something. So, what are your characters looking for? What's Christine looking for, and what's Colbert looking for?
I think, Christine being sort of more of a minor character, she's not part of that, bigger plot of, searching for something that's, the flow of the movie. But in terms of how I see the character, as a mother, in terms of having time for herself, having time with her friends. Also, obviously the priority being her son and making sure her son's okay, that, she's there for him and worries about him. And, I think for her, what she's searching for is just you know, because she's just got him in her life because she lost her husband. It's that interconnectedness with as a family, and you know, hoping for the future for, you know, grandchildren, and you know, having the connectedness with her friends in the community. You know, I think that's pretty much, you know, Christine.
Yeah, Colbert is looking for he's looking for happiness. He wants his wife to be happy. He wants to be fulfilled as a father. He wants to make enough money to be able to support their lifestyle. Yeah, and saying anything more than that is probably.
Do your characters have any strong personality traits or characteristics?
I think for mine is just, you know, being a typical nagging mum, you know, like that, you know, the son's just like, oh, stop nagging, you know. So I think in terms of strong characteristics, it'd probably have to be that, you know, like still overly protective of her son and too mothering in some ways, instead of, you know, him needing her to let him go a little bit, and as he grows into adulthood.
Yeah, well, I'm a detective, so I have a strong personality anyway. I have a very strong personality, and I do my job. Sometimes a little bit strangely, but yeah, I think he's very caring man as well, particularly towards his wife, and yeah, he has a strong personality.
What similarities are there between your characters and yourselves?
Yes, I think I've touched on that a little bit. Like for me, that's easier to answer. You know, she's a mum, I'm a mum. You know, I can probably be a real naggy of a mum as well sometimes. You know, I haven't lost a husband, but yeah, I mean, you know, there's been losses in my life, and you know, friends are important to me, family's important to me. So yeah, there's all those sorts of similarities.
Similarities. Well, there's always similarities. Like we were talking about before, about how you look for the similarity in the character to your own, you know, your own personality. Yeah, there's a few things. There's the family issue. There's definitely a similarity there. You know, wanting everything to be nice, and wanting your wife to be happy. There's a few distinct differences as well that I have to really sort of go outside myself to you know, accurately sort of portray that part of his personality. But yeah, no, it's an interesting character. I have an interesting character. I'm very lucky with this role. It's you know.
So you slightly touched on the differences then. So what other differences are there between your characters and yourselves?
I think the differences for me would be, I mean, obviously, you know, she's lost her husband, so she's alone, and I think the differences would be that I don't think Christine actually goes out much, and she doesn't, she's not kind of, I think if I had been alone for so many years, I'd probably like to, you know, go out and meet new people, and I think Christine's just all about the house and all about the son, and I think the differences are that, yeah, I just feel like, you know, to have more balance and to have, you know, a bit more fun in life, or, you know, yeah, I think that's a big difference, yeah.
Sure, and my character, he goes places that I've never been to. A few times in the film. Yeah, and I mean, as part of his role, he does some scary stuff, and I've never really experienced any danger or anything like that in my real life. So it's good. Yeah, it's going to be interesting playing him.
Now, let's talk about the audition process and preparing your characters. How did you prepare for your audition?
So, because it's a minor role, it's obviously I would prepare for either main roles or minor roles in different ways. The minor role, I mean, obviously reading the whole script is really important. Looking at the overall objectives and all of those sorts of things, and then just seeing what my role is and how it connects, and ultimately looking at who am I, where am I coming from, where am I going, what are my scene objectives, and in terms of the piece that I had to learn, obviously learn your lines really well. That's really important. Just kind of, a lot of the work I did at Q44 as well as 16th Street and with Alexander technique and everything, in terms of preparing on the day, in terms of nerves and things like that, it's really important. And everyone, you do it to some extent more than others, but relaxation and spinal rolls and breathing, that's just something that is now in my routine, whatever audition I go for, because it's the relaxation part that I learnt at Q44 as well is just invaluable, to just go in and be relaxed, know your lines, know who your character is, and it's just gives you more confidence to when you walk in like that.
So that's the advice you can give to somebody who is heading into an audition?
Look, absolutely, and also the relationship between the director and sometimes you can't always have a pre-existing relationship. Sometimes you might already know them, but I think just treat it's just the courtesy. It's being polite, it's being respectful, and it's being able to form that connection with the director or whoever else is in the room, casting director, cast and crew, and just being open to that as well, and because that leaves an impression as well. And you may not be right for that particular role, but if you can make that connection with another human being, they will remember you. And and that's happened to me before, where I might not have been right for one role, but I'll get called up later on because they remembered me for another role. So
Now, Gary, I know that you didn't audition for your role.
I have a very good relationship with the director.
That's right. So, but is there anything you'd like to add to that in regards to advice for someone who might be auditioning?
Yes, pretty much what Anna said. We've both been schooled in a lot of the same methods. If I'm going for an audition, I try to research the part as much as I can. The character, look at the character, and then, like Anna said, you learn your lines. Not just your lines, but the intention behind the lines. And then, it's a routine that I do too. I do relaxation work before I get into the room. I think it's pretty important to make the space as much yours as possible in an audition scenario. A lot of people go in and they're too afraid to say, "Oh no, can I move that chair?" And this doesn't feel right to me. But if you feel that that's a choice that you've made with the character, then do it. Just and people don't mind. The director won't mind. He wants to see what you've brought in there. What you brought to the character, how you've interpreted the role, and then if it's not what they're looking for, they can either tell you or do it a different way or whatever. But you just got to be open as well. That's part of it. You've got to be open to what's going on and the communication. And like Anna said, you always be respectful and try and build a relationship.
Now, what sort of preparation do you do for a role? What preparation have you done, for example, for your characters in Iniquitous so far?
So, I mean, again, if I can talk generally about most of the preparation that I will do for an audition or for a role, and again, it depends on how big or less, but or smaller role, but essentially a lot of the tools that you're using are the same. You just sometimes need to go deeper with some things. Like in terms of, objectives, relationships with other characters, what if you're needing to research something, in particular, like if it's set in a certain time in an era, which this film obviously is modern day, so it doesn't really matter. But things like it's really important to know, the house that you're living in, what kind of, are you well off? Are you, lower socioeconomic? All of those things impact on the choices that you make. In terms of how you're going to be dressed, what coffee you drink, all of those things impact on, how you're going to portray your character, and that research is really important. The emotional, dropping into the emotional world of that character takes a lot of other sorts of research and tools that you do. And again, it's every actor will have their own things that they draw on, whether it's sensory memory or journaling, whatever it is. I mean, I know for Christine, there's some emotional moments when she's remembering her late husband, and closer to the time of filming, because that sort of thing, you can research all the other stuff intellectually first, but when it comes closer to filming, this is my opinion too, is I would probably personally use possibly journaling or sense memory for a connection that will help me drop into that emotion that Christine might be feeling at that point. And I would probably do that morning, and leading into the action. For me, that's probably what I would tap into. Parts of those tools. Yeah.
I'm the same. Again, with had similar training, but you sort of have to get into the head of the character. We did a little bit of work on this earlier this year, and to be able to get into that particular moment in the film, that was actually quite difficult. That was, you look at sort of the way that they'd be. What's going through their mind, what are they feeling, what's their body doing, what's their posture like, what's their breath like, what's their, what are their hands doing, all of these things that you sort of, you have to sort of look at all of that stuff in very minute detail sometimes, and then try and bring it all together for that particular scene. And I go through a range of emotions in this film, and there's some scary stuff and there's some emotional stuff, and you build it up scene by scene for what's needed at that point.
Now, we've spoken about you both as actors and about your characters in the film, so let's talk about Iniquitous itself. Without revealing too much, what is the movie about?
I mean, I think it's a very clever play in terms of how things interact together. I think it's about good and bad choices people make in life. We've all got good and bad in us. We all have dreams. We all have things that we want to achieve or desire. And I think it's about those desires that sometimes people can make some poor choices in order to obtain those desires, no matter what. And it's about it's about desires and choices that people have. That you can either go down one path or you go down another path, which ultimately can just change your whole life. That's.
And for me, it's about. It's connectedness, and it's and this thing twists and turns, and like Anna said, it's very clever. But it's also, I think, for me, it's about responsibility, taking responsibility as well, rather than sort of relying on somebody else to fix your problems. It's and what Anna said, it's about taking responsibility and making personal choices. And then seeing how that all works out in the end.
So, what messages or lessons do you think the audience will pick up from the film?
Yeah, I think, a little bit of like what I said before in terms of just being aware of, or even what Gary said before, I think definitely about being aware of how the choices you make can impact on not just your life and future, but everyone around you. And I think, just taking responsibility for, everyone's got desires, and there's nothing wrong with, going for your dreams, but I think it's about being careful on, who you step along the way, and taking responsibility for that.
I think there's a lot in there about trust and about just the whole story. I think is about consequences and about it's also about the connections that everybody makes, and it's everybody's connected in some way, and sometimes you end up in circumstances you had no idea they were going to lead to that, like chance encounters and things like that, and you look back and you think, oh wow, if that hadn't happened and that hadn't happened, that hadn't happened, I wouldn't be here, and you could have bounced anyway in that whole path that you travel on, but sometimes you look back and you can see how certain things had to happen to have you end up where you ended up.
Now, is there a favourite scene in the script that you're really looking forward to film?
For my character, like in probably just the interaction with her son Jared, the tender moments of remembering her husband, and for me that, as far as my role goes, I think I'm going to enjoy filming all of it, but I think those sort of more tender moments or emotional moments will be nice.
The bank scene.
Enough said about the bank scene. If you could play any other character besides the one you were playing, which character would it be and why?
I think either Fiona or even Stephanie, but I can't play Stephanie in particular because I'm too old. But I think that there's a lot that happens with those characters, and in a lot of ways quite challenging. Lots of different action, and lots of ups and downs, and it'd be fun.
No, I like my role.
All right, thank you very, very much, both of you, and I can't wait to start filming this movie with you.
Yeah, thank you, Brenton.
Yeah.